4 boys thought they could destroy her with a piece of red paper. They had no idea they were about to become evidence in a federal terrorism case. Emma Stone stands motionless at locker 247, her petite frame casting barely a shadow in the fluorescent-lit hallway of Riverside High. The digital clock above the trophy case reads exactly 3:42 p.m. She checks her watch, a habit drilled into her since childhood, confirming the synchronization. Her movements possess an economy of motion that would seem unremarkable to casual observers, yet each gesture carries the precision of someone trained to waste nothing. A crimson slip of paper clings to her locker door like a fresh wound. Violation notice. Behavior correction required. 48 hours. She peels it away with 2 fingers, her expression unchanged. As she opens the metal door, another paper flutters to the polished floor. A receipt from Riverside Martial Arts Academy. $847 for advanced combat training. Emma's peripheral vision catches movement at the corridor's far end. 4 silhouettes approach with the predatory confidence of apex predators who have never known defeat. Their footsteps echo in measured cadence against the marble flooring. She retrieves the receipt, slides it into her chemistry textbook, and continues organizing her materials with the same mechanical precision. The red paper crumples silently in her palm. I'm building a community of people who care about justice and protecting those who can't protect themselves. If you believe that everyone deserves to be treated with respect, hit like to help spread this positive message. Subscribe for stories about courage that changes lives. And thank you. If you want to amplify the message about standing up against injustice, the thanks button helps these stories reach more people who need to hear them. Because you're about to see why sometimes you shouldn't judge anyone by their appearance. 6 months earlier, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Stone had taught his daughter the 3 cardinal rules that would govern her survival at Riverside High School. First, observe everything, act on nothing until you understand the complete tactical picture. Second, never seek conflict, but always be prepared to end it decisively. Third, your greatest weapon is the enemy's assumption that you don't have any weapons at all. Emma carries these lessons in her muscle memory as she navigates the marble corridors of Connecticut's most prestigious preparatory academy. Every morning at 7:15 a.m., she performs the same reconnaissance ritual. Count the exits, 4 main, 6 emergency. Identify potential cover. Trophy cases, concrete pillars, reinforced door frames. Map the sight lines and blind spots. Note which students travel in packs, which adults patrol which territories, and most importantly, which power structures operate beneath the surface of academic respectability. Riverside High exists as a monument to generational wealth. Its Gothic Revival architecture and manicured grounds suggest the kind of institution where future senators and Supreme Court justices receive their foundational education. The annual tuition of $52,000 ensures that most students arrive via luxury vehicles driven by private chauffeurs. Emma's presence here represents an anomaly. A full academic scholarship recipient whose father's military pension and mother's nursing salary would never otherwise grant access to such rarefied air. She maintains her cover through careful theater. Hunched shoulders suggest insecurity. Downcast eyes imply deference, and her oversized sweaters camouflage a physique sculpted by 15 years of disciplined training. Her classmates see what she allows them to see. A quiet scholarship girl who poses no threat to their established hierarchies. They cannot perceive the way she automatically calculates distances and angles, or how her seemingly nervous fidgeting actually represents continuous threat assessment. The deception requires constant vigilance. Emma has trained herself to walk with shorter strides, to speak more softly than her natural voice, and to flinch at sudden movements, even when every instinct screams readiness. She chooses seats near exits, not from anxiety, but from tactical necessity. When she checks her watch every 15 minutes, other students assume nervousness. They cannot know she's maintaining operational tempo, a habit inherited from a father whose survival once depended on split-second timing. Her academic performance must remain excellent enough to justify the scholarship while never threatening the established order. She deliberately scores 92% on tests she could ace, participates in class discussions without dominating them, and joins no extracurricular activities that might showcase her true capabilities. The martial arts training continues in secret at an academy 30 minutes away, paid for with her mother's weekend shifts at Hartford General Hospital. The red paper system represents the apex of adolescent psychological warfare. Bradley Thornfield had conceived the protocol during his junior year, inspired by his father's corporate management techniques and refined through careful observation of institutional control mechanisms. The beauty of the system lay not in its brutality, but in its sophistication. Traditional bullying left evidence and attracted administrative attention, while the red paper protocol operated through anticipation and dread. Bradley Thornfield commands this empire from his position as student body president and captain of the varsity football team. At 17, he stands 6 feet 2 inches with the kind of natural athleticism that college recruiters notice from freshman year. His father, Richard Thornfield, serves as president of Riverside National Bank, while his mother chairs the Hospital Foundation Board. Their family name appears on buildings throughout the county, each bronze plaque representing another layer of institutional influence. Marcus Blackwood functions as the enforcement arm of their operation. His father's position as police chief has taught him the precise boundaries between acceptable pressure and actionable assault. Marcus knows exactly how much physical intimidation he can apply without creating evidence that would survive legal scrutiny. His specialty involves creating situations where victims feel compelled to comply rather than resist, understanding that voluntary submission provides better protection than forced obedience. Ethan Goldridge brings political sophistication to their methods. As the son of the school board chairman, he understands how institutional authority can be leveraged to protect their activities. Ethan specializes in manipulating official channels, ensuring that complaints disappear into bureaucratic processes that favor established interests over troublemaking students. His role involves maintaining plausible deniability for adult authority figures who benefit from willful blindness. Tyler Ashworth completes their tactical formation through psychological manipulation expertise inherited from his attorney father's courtroom experience. Tyler understands how to construct narratives that make victims question their own perceptions while providing accusers with rational explanations for their treatment. He specializes in gaslighting techniques that leave targets uncertain about what actually happened to them. Together, they call themselves the Riverside Royals, a name that began as irony but evolved into literal self-perception. Their families' combined donations exceed $200,000 annually, funding new facilities and faculty salaries. Within the school's ecosystem, they possess sovereignty that transcends normal adolescent social dynamics. Their power extends beyond peer relationships into adult institutional structures that depend on continued financial support from established families. The red paper violations cover behaviors that no official student handbook could reasonably prohibit: inappropriate eye contact, wearing off-brand accessories, occupying premium social spaces without invitation, displaying academic achievement that threatens established rankings, or exhibiting confidence levels deemed inappropriate for one's social station. Each violation triggers a 48-hour compliance window, during which offenders can voluntarily submit to correction ceremonies that restore proper hierarchical order. The system's psychological impact proves devastating for normal teenagers. Social rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain, making isolation torture equivalent to assault. Within 2 years of operation, compliance rates have reached 94%. Students who ignore red paper notifications discover that their social existence becomes impossible. Phone numbers blocked, invitations withdrawn, group projects restructured, cafeteria seating mysteriously unavailable. Only one student had required intensive intervention before achieving compliance. Andrew Mitchell, a freshman scholarship recipient whose perfect test scores and naive confidence had marked him for immediate correction. The first direct confrontation occurs on Tuesday during second period. Emma sits in advanced placement chemistry, occupying her strategically chosen seat where she can observe both the instructor and classroom entrance while maintaining visual contact with emergency exits. She takes notes that conceal tactical observations within academic content, door security ratings, window accessibility, potential improvised weapons among laboratory equipment. Bradley Thornfield enters without knocking, his presence immediately shifting the classroom's atmospheric pressure. Conversations halt mid-sentence, students straighten in their chairs, and Mrs. Patterson's lecture falters as she recognizes the implicit challenge to her authority. He wears his letterman jacket despite the building's climate control, the leather sleeves and championship patches broadcasting status more effectively than verbal announcements. "Mrs. Patterson, I need to borrow Emma Stone for student council business," he announces, his tone carrying casual assumption of automatic compliance. His smile suggests friendliness, while his eyes communicate something entirely different. The chemistry teacher nods quickly, avoiding direct eye contact, and gestures toward Emma with the defeated expression of someone who has learned not to challenge institutional power structures. Emma gathers her materials with deliberate slowness, buying observation time. Bradley's three companions wait in the hallway, positioned with tactical awareness that surprises her. Marcus Blackwood blocks the corridor's main intersection, preventing interference from faculty or other students. Ethan Goldridge monitors the administrative office entrance, ensuring no adult supervision can materialize unexpectedly. Tyler Ashworth positions himself near the emergency exit, controlling potential escape routes. They move toward the library's study rooms, their destination isolated enough for conversational privacy, while remaining public enough to avoid institutional concern. Emma's peripheral vision tracks each hallway camera, noting blind spots and optimal positioning angles. Study Room C provides perfect environment for Bradley's purposes. Soundproof glass walls offer transparency illusion, while acoustic insulation prevents eavesdropping. He settles into the chair directly across from Emma, his body language radiating confident ownership of both physical space and social interaction. "You're impressive," he begins, leaning forward with practiced sincerity. "Perfect grades, full scholarship, obvious intelligence. Exactly the kind of student who could accomplish anything." His pause carries calculated weight. "My family has connections at every Ivy League school, major corporations, political organizations. One phone call from my father could guarantee your acceptance anywhere you want to study." Emma maintains neutral eye contact while continuing tactical analysis. Bradley's positioning blocks her direct path to the door, but the room's furniture could provide cover if situations escalate beyond verbal intimidation. His confidence suggests he has never encountered resistance to these recruitment techniques. "That sounds very generous," she responds carefully, her voice carrying just enough uncertainty to suggest persuasion possibility. Internally, she catalogues his psychological approach. Flattery first, establish reward value, then introduce compliance expectations. "All I'm asking for is friendship," Bradley continues, his smile widening to reveal perfect orthodontic work that probably cost more than most families' annual income. "Nothing inappropriate or uncomfortable. Just acknowledgement that some social hierarchies exist for good reasons, and occasionally accepting guidance from people who understand how the world really works." The euphemisms fascinate Emma from a linguistic perspective. Bradley has clearly practiced this presentation, refining each phrase to sound reasonable while maintaining plausible deniability about actual implications. She recognizes the technique from her father's descriptions of enemy psychological operations. Always provide targets with rational justifications for capitulation. I appreciate the offer, Emma says finally, but I believe in earning opportunities through my own efforts rather than through social connections. Her tone remains respectful, while the content delivers absolute rejection. She watches Bradley's facial expression shift almost imperceptibly as he processes the unexpected response. "I see," he replies, his smile becoming sharper around the edges. "That's an admirable philosophy, though perhaps a bit naive about how successful people actually advance in the real world." He stands slowly, movement designed to emphasize their physical size difference. "Take some time to think about it, Emma. Sometimes pride becomes a luxury that scholarship students can't afford." The systematic isolation campaign begins within hours of Emma's refusal. She recognizes the tactical shift immediately, having studied similar psychological warfare techniques in her father's military history books. The Riverside Royals have clearly executed this operation multiple times, their methods refined through repetition into maximum effectiveness. By third period, Emma's usual study partners in the library claim their group is full for the semester, though she observes empty chairs at their table throughout the week. Her lab partner in physics suddenly requests transfer to a different section, citing scheduling conflicts that magically resolve once she is no longer involved. The cafeteria proves particularly illuminating as a battlefield for social manipulation. Every table she approaches experiences sudden urgent conversations requiring complete privacy, or discovers they have exactly enough seats for current occupants with no room for additional members. Emma documents each incident with methodical precision of an intelligence analyst. Her smartphone contains time-stamped photos of empty cafeteria tables claimed to be reserved, screenshots of group chats excluding her from study sessions she previously attended, and carefully recorded audio of conversations that halt abruptly when she enters previously friendly social spaces. The digital warfare proves more sophisticated than initially expected. Fake Instagram accounts begin posting photos of Emma with captions suggesting she considers herself superior to other students, though she has never made such statements publicly or privately. Her genuine academic achievements become reframed as aggressive competition rather than personal excellence. Anonymous comments on social media posts question whether scholarship students truly deserve positions at prestigious institutions, using language carefully crafted to avoid explicit policy violations while maximizing psychological impact. The manipulation extends into academic environments where adult supervision should provide protection. Group projects mysteriously reorganize to exclude her participation. Study group invitations disappear from her email inbox, though other members receive identical messages, and classroom seating arrangements shift to create subtle but obvious isolation zones around her desk. Emma's tactical training allows her to appreciate the operation's psychological sophistication while maintaining emotional detachment from intended effects. She recognizes systematic application of social rejection techniques designed to trigger adolescent panic responses. The perpetrators understand that teenage psychology makes peer acceptance feel like survival necessity, particularly for students whose family financial situations already mark them as outsiders. However, her military background provides immunity against these particular weapons. Emma has spent years developing personal identity independent of external validation, trained to operate effectively under conditions of isolation and hostility. The Riverside Royals have chosen their target poorly. They are attempting to psychologically break someone specifically prepared to resist exactly this form of attack. 3 days into the isolation campaign, Emma discovers something that changes her understanding of the situation completely. While conducting routine surveillance of her tormentor's activities, she observes Marcus Blackwood distribute red paper violations to 3 other students: Marcus Chen, a sophomore whose family immigrated from Taiwan; Jessica Rivera, whose father works as a hospital custodian; David Park, a junior whose mother cleans houses for wealthy families. Emma follows Jessica Rivera home that afternoon, maintaining careful distance to avoid detection. She watches the girl break down crying in her family's modest apartment, explaining to her worried mother that she must publicly apologize for laughing inappropriately during lunch period or face consequences that could affect her academic standing. Jessica's mother, who speaks limited English and works double shifts at a nursing home, cannot understand the bureaucratic language on the red paper but recognizes her daughter's terror. That evening, Emma begins researching the full scope of the red paper system. Using techniques learned from her father's intelligence work, she maps social media connections, cross-references family financial information available through public records, and analyzes behavioral patterns among student populations. What she discovers transforms her understanding of the situation from personal harassment to systematic oppression. The red paper violations exclusively target students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, scholarship recipients, children of service workers, recent immigrants, and anyone whose family income falls below the county median. The system operates as social engineering designed to maintain class hierarchies through psychological pressure rather than explicit discrimination that might attract legal attention. Emma finds evidence of 12 previous victims over 2 academic years. Some transferred to other schools, others submitted to increasingly degrading correction ceremonies, and one, Andrew Mitchell, had attempted suicide after his public humiliation was live-streamed across social media platforms. Andrew's case had been covered up through carefully coordinated efforts between the school administration, local media contacts controlled by board member families, and medical professionals whose practices depended on wealthy patient referrals. The red paper system represents something far more dangerous than typical adolescent bullying. It constitutes organized psychological warfare designed to break students who pose economic or social threats to established hierarchies. Emma realizes she is not dealing with immature teenagers acting out privilege. She is confronting a sophisticated operation designed to maintain generational power structures through systematic abuse of vulnerable populations. On Friday morning, Emma discovers her own red paper violation taped to locker 247. The crimson slip transforms her from observer to active participant in a conflict she had been analyzing from tactical distance. Violation notice. Student: Emma Stone. Infraction: inappropriate eye contact with Bradley Thornfield during cafeteria interaction. Correction required. Public apology by 3:12 p.m. Friday, or consequences will escalate. Authority: Student Disciplinary Committee. She photographs the document from multiple angles, noting paper quality, font characteristics, and formatting that suggest professional printing equipment rather than typical student access resources. Someone with institutional authority has provided support for this operation. Emma folds the notice carefully and places it in her chemistry textbook alongside her growing evidence collection. The trap is now fully revealed. She understands that compliance will establish precedent for future escalations, while resistance will trigger the next phase of their psychological warfare campaign. Both options serve her enemy's strategic objectives, unless she can identify tactical alternatives they have not anticipated. As she studies the violation notice, Emma notices something that makes her pulse quicken with tactical recognition. The document contains a subtle watermark visible only under specific lighting conditions. She angles the paper toward the fluorescent hallway lights and sees it clearly. The official seal of Riverside High School, identical to letterhead used by the principal's office for formal communications. This red paper violation is not student-produced harassment. It represents official institutional documentation, suggesting administrative complicity in the systematic abuse campaign. Someone with access to official school materials and printing equipment has been producing these violation notices, lending governmental authority to what appeared to be peer-to-peer psychological warfare. Emma checks her watch. 10:47 a.m. She has 4 hours and 13 minutes to decide how a trained operative should respond to a declaration of war disguised as an official disciplinary notice. But now she understands that her enemies include not just 4 privileged teenagers, but the institutional authority structure that enables their operations. The hallway security camera mounted above her locker records everything. She looks directly into its lens for exactly 3 seconds, long enough to ensure clear facial identification in the footage, then returns to organizing her materials with the same mechanical precision she has maintained since her first day at Riverside High. But now her careful movements carry a different quality. The predatory stillness of someone who has finally identified the true scope of her mission, and the institutional corruption that makes federal intervention not just justified, but inevitable. The final phase begins exactly at 3:47 p.m., when Emma approaches locker 247 for what she knows will be the last time as an anonymous scholarship student. The corridor stretches empty in both directions, creating the perfect arena for confrontation. Her tactical assessment identifies optimal positioning. The trophy case provides hard cover. The emergency exit offers escape routes, and the security camera angle captures everything while maintaining her plausible deniability. Bradley Thornfield emerges from the library with his 3 companions, their formation suggesting practiced coordination. Marcus Blackwood takes point position, his police training evident in the way he scans for witnesses. Ethan Goldridge blocks the administrative hallway, ensuring no faculty interference. Tyler Ashworth positions himself near the main entrance, controlling access points with the methodical precision of someone who has orchestrated this scenario multiple times. "Time's up, Emma," Bradley announces, his voice carrying across the marble flooring with theatrical authority designed for maximum psychological impact. He holds a manila folder containing what appears to be official documentation. The papers inside represent the final escalation of their systematic campaign. "We tried to handle this diplomatically, but you've forced us to implement more serious measures." Emma continues organizing her locker contents, her movements maintaining the same mechanical precision that has characterized her performance throughout the semester. Internally, she calculates distances, evaluates improvised weapons among her school supplies, and maps potential tactical advantages within the confined space. The metal ruler in her chemistry textbook could serve multiple purposes if the situation escalates beyond verbal intimidation. "Andrew Mitchell Protocol," Marcus adds, his tone carrying the casual cruelty of someone who has never faced consequences for psychological violence. "Academic transcript notation, psychiatric evaluation recommendation, immediate transfer to appropriate educational environment. Your scholarship gets revoked, your college applications get flagged, your future gets decided by people who understand social boundaries better than you do." The Andrew Mitchell reference triggers Emma's tactical threshold. She recognizes that these are not idle threats, but documented procedures that have already destroyed at least one student's life through systematic institutional abuse. Her mission parameters shift from passive observation to active protection, not just of herself, but of all future victims who lack her specialized training and family support systems. "Interesting," Emma responds without turning around, her voice carrying a new quality that makes Bradley instinctively step backward. "Tell me about Andrew Mitchell. Did he beg? Did he cry? Did he kneel in front of the entire student body like you wanted?" Tyler Ashworth moves closer, recognizing the tactical shift in Emma's psychological presentation. His father's courtroom experience has taught him to identify when opponents stop playing defense and begin preparing counterattacks. "You need to understand your situation here, Emma. This isn't negotiable anymore. The documentation is already prepared. The recommendations are already written. One signature from the right administrator makes this official. Emma finally turns to face them, her movement revealing a transformation that makes all four boys instinctively assess their positioning. The hunched shoulders have disappeared, the downcast eyes now maintain direct contact with predatory intensity, and her overall bearing suggests someone who has been concealing significant capabilities behind carefully constructed weakness. "You know what I understand," Emma says, her voice carrying the controlled precision of someone who has been trained to remain calm under extreme pressure. "I understand that you've been documenting your systematic abuse of vulnerable students for 2 years. I understand that school officials have been providing material support for psychological warfare operations targeting scholarship recipients. I understand that your parents' financial contributions have purchased institutional protection for federal civil rights violations." The four boys exchange glances that reveal their first genuine uncertainty. Emma's language has shifted from defensive teenager to someone who speaks with adult comprehension of legal implications and institutional accountability. Bradley's confident smile falters as he processes vocabulary that suggests knowledge far beyond normal high school student awareness. "What I don't understand," Emma continues, "is why you thought a military family would raise a daughter who breaks under pressure from trust fund terrorists playing dress-up with real psychological warfare techniques." I'm really curious about the moment Emma realized she didn't have to take it anymore. Have you ever had a moment where you decided enough, no more putting up with it? Share your story about finding strength in a difficult situation in the comments, because what happens next will completely change everyone's life forever. The confrontation reaches its breaking point when Marcus Blackwood moves toward Emma with clear intent to physically intimidate her into compliance. His approach triggers combat protocols that have been drilled into her muscle memory since childhood. Emma's peripheral vision tracks the positions of all four opponents, while her tactical analysis calculates optimal response sequences that will neutralize threats while minimizing her own exposure to retaliation. "Last chance, scholarship girl," Bradley announces, his voice carrying desperation disguised as authority. "Sign the voluntary transfer request. Admit you're not suitable for Riverside's academic environment. And we'll make sure your records don't follow you to whatever public school will take you." Emma checks her watch. 3:56. 10:10 p.m. The security camera above her locker maintains perfect sight lines to record everything that happens in the next few seconds. She positions herself to ensure optimal documentation while maintaining tactical advantages that her opponents cannot perceive. "You want to know something about military families?" Emma asks, her tone shifting to the controlled calm that her father used before combat operations. "We don't surrender to terrorists. We identify them, document their operations, and ensure they face appropriate consequences through proper legal channels." 3:56. 14. Bradley reaches toward Emma's shoulder, intending to physically guide her toward the transfer documents. His movement represents assault under Connecticut state law and federal civil rights violations under institutional authority. 3:56. Emma sidesteps left, avoiding contact while maintaining perfect positioning relative to the security camera angle. Her movement appears defensive to observers, while actually representing tactical preparation. 3:56-16. Marcus Blackwood moves to flank her right side, his police training evident in the coordination attempt. Emma recognizes the pattern from defensive tactical scenarios practiced extensively with her father. 3:56-17. Emma utilizes Marcus's momentum against him, applying basic Aikido principles to redirect his approach toward the trophy case. The technique requires minimal force while maximizing environmental impact. 3:56-18. Marcus impacts the trophy case with sufficient force to crack the reinforced glass, golden awards cascading to the marble floor in a shower of symbolic destruction. The noise echoes through empty hallways like gunshots. 3:56:19. Tyler attempts to grab Emma from behind, his approach telegraphed by amateur technique. Emma delivers a precise elbow strike to his solar plexus, causing him to double over while remaining conscious. 3:56:20. Ethan freezes in place, his political instincts recognizing that this situation has escalated beyond social manipulation into documented criminal activity. The security footage will provide evidence that cannot be suppressed through family connections. 3:56:21. Bradley stares at the destruction around him, processing the fact that his carefully constructed social hierarchy has collapsed in less than 8 seconds. Emma returns to her locker, as if organizing school supplies rather than dismantling a systematic abuse operation. 3:56. Tweed. "Are you ready to continue this?" Emma asks without looking at them, her voice carrying more menace than any shouting could achieve. The question hangs in the air like a challenge that none of them possess the courage to accept. The aftermath unfolds with the systematic precision of a military operation designed to ensure complete institutional accountability. Emma's documentation of the red paper system, combined with security footage of the physical confrontation, provides federal investigators with irrefutable evidence of systematic civil rights violations operating under institutional protection. FBI Special Agent Sarah Martinez arrives at Riverside High School exactly 67 hours after Emma's confrontation with the Riverside Royals. She carries federal warrants based on civil rights conspiracy charges that cannot be dismissed through local political influence. The investigation expands rapidly once agents begin examining financial records, linking parent donations to administrative policy decisions regarding disciplinary procedures. When systematic abuse receives institutional protection, it becomes a federal civil rights violation. Agent Martinez explains to assembled faculty members whose careers depend on cooperation with federal investigators. Title IX violations: conspiracy to deprive citizens of constitutional rights, and organized psychological warfare against protected populations represent serious federal crimes with mandatory minimum sentences. The numbers tell the story that local authorities had deliberately ignored. 47 red paper violations documented over 24 months, 12 students transferred or withdrawn from school to avoid continued abuse, 1 suicide attempt covered up through coordinated institutional effort, and over $200,000 in family donations that purchased administrative complicity in systematic torture of vulnerable minors. Principal Hayes submits his resignation within 48 hours, his letter revealing institutional knowledge of red paper operations and conscious decisions to prioritize donor relationships over student safety. 3 school board members face federal indictment for conspiracy charges, their political careers ending in handcuffs and perp walks broadcast on local news stations. Bradley Thornfield requires surgery for his broken wrist and suffers mild concussion from his impact with the trophy case. Marcus Blackwood's cracked ribs heal within 6 weeks, but his psychological trauma from discovering his limitations requires months of therapy. Tyler Ashworth's solar plexus injury causes breathing difficulties for several days, while Ethan Goldridge escapes physical harm but faces the complete destruction of his family's political influence. The legal consequences prove more devastating than the physical injuries. 4 separate assault charges: federal civil rights conspiracy, organized criminal activity under RICO statutes, and institutional corruption allegations that implicate parents, administrators, and local law enforcement in systematic cover-up operations. The financial settlement reaches $4.7 million distributed among documented victims of the red paper system. Andrew Mitchell's family receives the largest individual award, accompanied by formal apologies from school officials who had previously dismissed his case as academic stress. The legal precedent established by the Riverside case influences federal policy regarding institutional responsibilities for systematic peer abuse in educational environments. Emma maintains her academic performance throughout the investigation, achieving perfect attendance despite testimony requirements and media attention. Her scholarship receives formal protection under federal whistleblower statutes, ensuring that retaliation against her family becomes impossible regardless of political pressure from established community interests. The local media coverage expands into national attention when CNN features the red paper system as an example of sophisticated psychological warfare targeting vulnerable student populations in elite educational institutions. The story resonates with parents nationwide who recognize similar patterns in their own communities. 3 months after the federal investigation concludes, Emma receives a text message that changes her understanding of everything that has happened at Riverside High School. The communication arrives from a number she does not recognize, containing information that only someone with access to classified military databases could possess. Operation Scholarship Guardian. Phase 1 complete. Target: systematic abuse prevention through institutional exposure. Results: federal precedent established. 4 similar programs identified nationwide. Recommendation: advancement to Phase 2 operations. Report to command for new assignment briefing. Well done, Agent Stone. Emma stares at the message for exactly 30 seconds before deleting it, her mind processing implications that reframe her entire experience at Riverside High as something more complex than personal survival. She has been participating in a coordinated operation designed to identify and neutralize systematic abuse networks targeting vulnerable student populations across multiple elite institutions. The realization that her father's military connections extend into active operations rather than retirement becomes clear when she discovers a manila envelope in her locker containing travel documents, academic transcripts for International Academy in Switzerland, and a mission briefing marked with classifications she recognizes from her childhood exposure to her father's work. Operation Guardian Student. Phase 2. Target Institution: International Academy, Geneva Mission. Parameters: identify and document systematic abuse operations targeting American scholarship recipients in international educational environments. Cover story: academic exchange program, advanced placement student duration. 2 semesters, maximum special considerations. International jurisdiction requires federal coordination with Swiss authorities. Emma photographs the documents before they dissolve in water. Military-grade paper designed for operational security. She understands now that her placement at Riverside High was never coincidental. Her scholarship was never purely academic, and her training was never intended solely for personal protection. The Guardian Student Program represents a federal response to intelligence indicating systematic psychological warfare operations targeting American youth in elite educational institutions worldwide. Emma is one of multiple operatives placed in strategic positions to document and neutralize these threats before they can cause permanent damage to vulnerable populations. Her success at Riverside High has earned advancement to international operations where the stakes involve not just individual students, but potential threats to American citizens studying abroad. The red paper system was apparently one component of a larger network designed to identify and psychologically break students who might become future leaders in politics, military service, or corporate environments. As Emma prepares for her next assignment, she reflects on Andrew Mitchell's case and realizes that his near-suicide was not random teenage crisis, but targeted elimination of someone whose intelligence and integrity posed future threats to established power structures. The red paper system was designed to identify and destroy exactly the kind of person who might challenge corruption in adult professional environments. The mission parameters for International Academy include higher stakes and deadlier opposition. Her briefing materials reference previous operatives who suffered academic accidents and unexpected medical emergencies that suggest systematic elimination of students who discovered too much about institutional operations. Emma checks her watch, a new model provided through military channels, equipped with GPS tracking and emergency communication capabilities. She has 72 hours to complete preparation for international deployment, including advanced language training, diplomatic protocol briefing, and updated combat certification for operations in foreign jurisdictions. The final document in her briefing packet contains a single line that makes her smile with predatory anticipation. Intelligence suggests International Academy Red Card system operational for 5 years. Estimated victim count, 67 students across 12 nationalities. Elimination authorized. Emma closes her locker for the final time, her movements carrying the confident precision of someone who has discovered her true calling. She is no longer a scholarship student hiding her capabilities behind constructed weakness. She is Agent Stone, and her war against systematic abuse has only just begun. The hallway security camera records her departure, but the footage will show nothing unusual. Just another successful student heading home after completing her academic requirements. What it cannot capture is the transformation from protected asset to active operative, or the fact that teenage bullies at an elite Connecticut preparatory academy have inadvertently trained a federal agent who will spend the next decade dismantling international networks designed to break the spirits of America's most promising young minds. Outside Riverside High's Gothic entrance, a black sedan idles near the circular drive. The driver wears civilian clothes, but his posture and alertness suggest military background. Emma approaches without hesitation, her gait carrying the controlled confidence of someone who has found her purpose through conflict and emerged stronger for the experience. As she reaches for the door handle, Emma pauses to look back at the building that housed her metamorphosis. Somewhere inside, cleanup crews are installing new trophy cases to replace the ones shattered during her 8-second demonstration of tactical superiority. The red paper system lies in ruins, its architects facing federal prosecution, and its victims finally receiving the justice they deserved. "Ready for Geneva, Agent Stone?" the driver asks as she settles into the passenger seat. Emma buckles her seatbelt with military precision, her eyes already focused on the horizon where new challenges await. "Always ready," she replies, the same words that will become her signature response throughout a career dedicated to protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The sedan pulls away from Riverside High, carrying a federal operative whose legend began with 4 boys who made the fatal mistake of underestimating the quiet scholarship girl with perfect posture and dangerous secrets. 3 states away, another operative receives similar coordinates. Zoe Walker closes her locker at Westfield Preparatory Academy, a blue paper violation crumpled in her palm. The systematic abuse networks have spread farther than anyone initially suspected, but so has the response. Operation Guardian Student now maintains active operatives at 17 elite institutions across North America and Europe, each one a seemingly vulnerable teenager carrying the skills necessary to dismantle corruption disguised as education. The quiet war for America's future leaders has begun in earnest.